Hey, how are you doing?
Richard,
I don't know if I hear you. Oh yeah, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, how's it
yeah,
going?
I'm gonna win some, what are they called? AirPod Maxes. And I'm gonna throw these Pro 2s in the fucking garbage where they belong because they never like connect on their own when I use them. So
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know. The Maxes are like I guess an older technology, but they're still charging a premium. If I move some money over with Simple, then I can get it before like June something. So
yeah. I had the AirPods Max, the over ear ones, for about like 2 years, and then they kind of like lost the ability to work, uh, related to some kind of internal thing, and kind of around the same time my friends did too, and we both had this theory that because one side is metal and the other side is cloth, we thought that like humidity builds up inside of them if like the longer you wear them, and then it like short circuits or something. And then if you bring them in, they charge you like 70% of the price of the item to repair, and it may or may not work. And so then I sort of gave up on that as like but they're good headphones for like 2 years, but they beyond that, it seems like they have a pretty sketchy track record of working longer. But I don't know if it may or may not be worth it for 2 years. I think most headphones have some kind of failing after that time anyway.
well, like everything is fucking built to fail. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, so,
Yeah.
okay, a couple things. And this is why I shop at Costco for their return policy. So I have gone through, I won't tell you how many Mac Pros. And the reason is
Mhm.
because it's like they're designed to fail after or close to the 90-day mark. So every time I use the computer, like I don't have a lot of shit on the computer. I really don't. Like I do emails, I do like government stuff, like for claims and whatever. Some pictures, basic Apple stuff. And like glitchy, weird shit starts to happen near the
Mm.
end of the 90-day warranty period. So, like for instance, like trying to move stuff from my download folder on the line won't work. Like you can't move it anywhere. And other
Right.
weird stuff starts to happen that like it's weird, it's glitchy, but it wasn't there before, and I know it's not there before because it never was a problem.
Mm.
So, and I also like noticed like increased lagging, delays, load times. There's like I know the difference between having shitty internet and not, and then you're just your computer not working well. And by that
Mm.
90-day mark, I see that fucking rainbow wheel all the time. And I have the most powerful laptop that I think, middle class can buy. I'm not saying like there's
Mm.
probably Alienware and like custom stuff out there it's better. But you go to the Costco, you get the M4 chip, you get like, top of the line Pro, you're paying $3,000 after taxes Canadian. That's what I got.
Mm.
And there should be no load time and anything. If I'm opening my mail, my Apple Mail, it shouldn't be loading. Like, yes, there's fetching data, but I'm talking about like buffering or like the system
Mhm.
processing. I should never see that fucking rainbow wheel ever.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
it would
spins.
definitely be cool if you could just tell, like if you only use a couple applications, it would be cool if you could just tell it always keep all the mail in memory. Like never, sometimes it offloads memory for different reasons, but if you have enough memory for everything to be held at once, you should be able to just tell it like always have my mail ready to go no matter what. But yeah, it's like the more stuff you have on there, the more task switching it starts to try to optimize, but it doesn't guess what you're going to do correctly, and then just makes you wait or something.
Richard, I have maximum 30 emails. And that's it. That's it. And most of them
Yeah.
are legal stuff that I have to have that I haven't turned into PDFs yet. And like archived and like because I do sequences and stuff whenever I do legal stuff or like I pull everything off email because the search function is shit. So as soon as like I grab the
Mm.
attachment that I need, I delete it. I don't give a fuck. I just restart an email chain if I need to start something.
Right.
So there should be no issue, none. And yet I'm noticing that this tech the best that you can get is failing within 90 days.
Mm.
Man, I've gone through too many laptops, dude, and I'm getting fucking fed up with it because I believe in value for money. So if I'm gonna drop 3K on, I expect this thing to be able to last for 5 years, not 90 days.
Yeah, and especially if it's worth trying like a full reset, like a full OS reinstall and like wipe everything and see if that like rejuvenates it, especially if you kept one around for a while.
Yeah,
Sometimes
but if
I
I shouldn't have
yeah.
to do that. I shouldn't have to do that when it's so
Mm.
new, right?
Yeah, when it's so new it shouldn't be needed. But it seems like it would be weird if it was a hardware thing. It seems like it would be some kind of software related thing. And then I would think that it could be fixed by just wiping everything. But maybe it's depends if it's worth it or not. Sometimes it takes like a whole day to reinstall everything.
Mm. Well, man, like, so I tried the AirPod Maxes before, and I was like, this isn't worth the money. And
Mm.
I don't get how it's been out for so long and they're still charging what they're charging.
Yeah, no, and there's no. I don't think there's an updated version or anything. Yeah.
No, and it uses the Lightning charger that my iPhone 8
Oh
uses.
wow, that's bad.
Straight right. So it's like I don't get it. And
Mm.
it's still like shown to be like the better of the AirPods. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Apple. It's
Yeah, I
not the
was.
company that I read about.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's really gone downhill. Not really many interesting things coming out. The iPhone's kind of stagnating, prices going up, quality going down. Yeah, bad like things don't last or something. But there's not it sucks cuz there's no good alternative anymore. Like Apple was the good alternative for a while and now it's not anymore and there isn't you just can't find quality in certain product areas and big companies own the whole market and they don't innovate at all.
Once they own it, they don't have to innovate. That's the thing. They can
Yeah.
get fat and bloated and it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
People
like
will
they're not
still
yeah. They've reached all the customers they're going to reach, so the only way to make more money is making it cheaper or like cheaper in quality and more expensive. Yeah, in terms of I've just been wearing these like bone conduction headphones for like the last like year. There's pretty much the only headphones I wear or I use speakers on my desktop. But I wanted to get over ear headphones again. And there was this one company that people were talking good about. All their headphones are wired pretty much though. But they're I don't even know what the company is. It's just like CX 100 or 200 or something or 400 is this like headphone company and they make headphones that are for like I guess intended to be high quality audio like blocking sound and then they have like a wired cable which I suppose is there for like quality and battery life that goes to the computer. And I wouldn't mind that, but I'm not sure if I guess I have a headphone jack on my computer, but any unprotected cable, my cat would try to eat it. So that's what I would worry about. But I actually would. I like to have wired devices now because I just don't like to. I don't like to have to think about charging stuff. I just like everything to work and no Bluetooth connection. Just everything's connected, stable all the time.
well,
So I wouldn't
also
mind buying
too,
these headphones.
we're bombarded with fucking radio waves. And it's like
Mm.
if you look at the fine print, like you can't don't put the phone near your head. Like, wear a headset. This thing's dangerous. It's gonna cook your fucking brain. And like
Yeah.
when you're charging your device and you're holding on to it, like I don't know if you noticed, but like the energy passes through you.
Mm.
Like I feel a difference when I touch my phone without the charger attached and when it's attached. And
Mm.
I had the laptop plugged in charging and I was like touching the laptop and there was like a electromagnetic response. I could like feel some sort of energy coming off of it. It wasn't you couldn't see it,
Mm.
but I was touching something and the laptop was responding the energy and it was responding to my touch. Only when it was plugged in, it was fucked. And so it's like, I'm really thinking about going retro and getting a wired connection again. And I know that like Apple is moving towards, at least they were moving towards going completely and fully wireless and like doing casting and stuff. And then they kind of backpedaled with their laptop.
Yeah.
They went from like true minimalists, sleek, elegant to larger vents. Like I don't think there was vents in the model from a couple of years ago,
Mm.
but now there's like kind of vents around the outside. It's pretty sleek. But now they have it so you can use HDMI again. Uh,
Right.
there's like another memory port for 3 universe, like what are they called? USC? What are the new
Right.
ones?
Yeah, the C. USB-C.
So they got 3 instead of 2, and then the charging is they
Mm.
let. I hate the magnet fucking charger because I always knock it off. It's stupid.
Mm.
Anyway, I find that they kind of backpedaled, and while they were going towards wireless, I don't know if they stopped because they were opening themselves up to lawsuits or what. I don't know because having wireless everything isn't really good.
Yeah,
Dude,
I think it was just professionals that use the Mac. Like every other peripheral that's not Apple uses wired, and so then yeah, like the pro community didn't like the 0 ports, so I think they had to go back just to get that audience, at least for the
yeah.
time being.
Yeah, man. You know, the more I look at like tech and civilization and the way we live, the more I'm just like, yeah, no wonder we're sick. We're bombarded with like toxin, chemicals, radiation, and we're told that like we're told the wrong stuff. There's so much misinformation out there. I just discovered that sunglasses fuck us up.
Oh yeah,
You,
can't be
yeah,
worse than the sun though. The sun
no.
does a lot of damage.
So get this. So just like how the sun, the cycle, like we have evolved and our serotonin and melatonin access is like dependent upon the light that we're exposed to. We are fully and completely dependent on the sun. We need it to regulate our systems. Without it, we're fucked. I don't know how people in the
Mm.
Arctic and Antarctica, if there's anybody in the Antarctica, do it when there's like 24-hour
Yeah,
days
that's a
or
good
24
point.
hour
Yeah,
night.
they don't get, where do they get vitamin B from
D,
or
yeah.
whatever? Yeah,
So
D.
they could take a supplement, but it's not the same thing. So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, so you need the sun to wake you up and to kickstart your serotonin. And serotonin converts into melatonin, but it needs darkness as the cue. So there's like that serotonin melatonin axis, and all of it's determined by light. And that's why my theory is we're depressed in the wintertime because there's too much darkness, too much melatonin, not enough serotonin, and we're sluggish and not active, among other things, unless you're like a skier and you love the outdoors and freezing your fucking nipples off. And then summertime, I find I'm like chronically stressed. And that's because the sun is up too long and I'm not disciplined enough to like block everything out. So I'm not getting enough sleep because by the time I fall asleep, because the sun is like going down at like 11 p.m. at some days, I'm waking up at like 5:36. I'm getting less than 8 hours, and that's if I'm fully disciplined, following like just the environmental cues. And so I found like I'm not getting enough sleep throughout the summertime, and I'm sleep deprived, and I'm stressed, and my cortisol spikes, and they put on weight. And that's my theory. And you know what? Like springtime is sort of and the fall time are like the Goldilocks zones where you're getting the right amount of sun exposure and the right amount of darkness to be able to like have
Mm.
sleep. I'm finally able to sleep. Finally.
Right.
Like I'm able to have consistent sleeps. And the wintertime was kind of screwing me up because everything's kind of fucked. And too much darkness, too much melatonin like messes up your mood, you're depressed, you're lethargic, blah blah blah. And you're kind of like oversleeping and then so where am I going with all this stuff? Like we are like the sun is there, obviously. It like almost it's an infinite source of energy until it burns out, which is way beyond our lifespan. But it can burn us, give us skin cancer, regulates like wrong word, not regulate, but our whole sleep cycle is dependent on it. And like we wear sunglasses, but the way that our body knows that it's like really bright out and can respond accordingly is through the brain eye connection, because the eyes are technically attached to the, well, they are attached to the brain and technically a part of the brain. And so we get light in through our eyes. In the morning, it'll kickstart our serotonin. But if it's super bright out, it tells our body that, it's bright, it's hot. And if you have shades on and you're not getting that light through your eye, then your body is not aware. And what I heard, and I need to look more into this, but your skin adapts or adjusts depending on the amount of sun that's out there. And so if your body thinks it's dark, your skin isn't going to adapt for the darkness, or sorry, for the sun that's out there, because it thinks it's night, it thinks it's dark, or there's not enough sun. And I wish I knew like the correct terminology for this or knew more
Right.
about it,
Yeah.
but I just discovered this. So if it is super bright, then it's like your skin anticipates it and changes to adjust for the extra radiation exposure and the extra heat. And it's the same thing with like sunblock. Everybody and their dog tells you to wear fucking sunblock. SPF, more SPF the better. But the problem with the sunblock is it sort of numbs our nerves a bit. So yes, it works, and I know it works because I don't get the sun damage on the face, the freckles or whatever when I wear it. But the problem is most
Right.
people don't reapply it after the 2-hour mark. And what it does is it makes your skin more vulnerable to the sun's radiation. And so you can get burnt more easily and are more vulnerable to the sun when you wear sunblock. So now I'm at
Yeah,
this
I
point
guess
where,
yeah, that might be a bit tricky, but it does make sense. Like if your skin is like very white and has never had sun on it, it'll be very susceptible. But then it's not like it wouldn't be better to like, you can't like ease your skin into it in a way that doesn't expose it to sort of like skin cancer. It feels like a one of those catches where like you got to use sunblock to protect yourself, and there's not really an alternative. Like it's like if you forget to apply it once or twice, you'll get a bad sunburn. But maybe overall, like one day of bad sunburn and the rest you remember to apply it versus some kind of like not wearing it at all would never be a viable strategy, even if you are trying to like sort of tan your skin to protect yourself or something.
like, so,
I don't know if there's like a not. Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a way out of that.
well, okay, so we can be exposed to the sun in small quantities and eventually, progressively over time, get darker. And I'm just looking up what it's called. What makes our skin
Yeah, I guess I'd be interested to know if
darker?
that like there must be some chance of developing skin cancer even with like limited exposure, like controlled exposure to the sun for the purpose of like controlled tanning to build up a resistance, like building up a callus or something. There must be some kind of risk involved, like versus if you just apply sunscreen all the time forever. I feel like that would be the safe way. And there's like obviously a risk if you forget to apply it, you'll be unprotected. But if you add up all the tiny risk of slowly browning the skin, I feel like that would be kind of equal to that one day that you forget to apply and get like a bad burn.
So, okay, what I'm trying to get at is we're not supposed to bake in the fucking sun.
Hmm.
And we become uncomfortable when the sun is at its highest intensity and UV index is like through the roof and dangerous, right? Like they say, oh yeah, the ozone's worn out. And maybe that's true from pollution. I'm not sure. But like we're not supposed to be out there on like just cooking. And when you think, because we think about like where we came from. We're supposed to be in a temperate climate in fucking forest. Yes, we'll get some sun exposure when we leave the canopy of the forest. But we're not supposed to be out in a desert. How do we survive in a desert? When you really think about like before we had the cognitive revolution, the agriculture revolution, like let's just think of us as fucking monkeys. We're not going to be out in the desert. That is not our climate. That is not what we evolved for, right? So we're not supposed to be out in the sun all the time baking ourselves into fucking brownies. And so what's interesting about our bodies is yeah, it does adapt. And when we do have sun exposure, we get it's called like melanin, a group of natural pigments produced in the skin. And what's interesting is like if you are closer to the equator and have more sun exposure, you notice like folks are darker, yeah?
Yeah.
And
I
so
don't think they could avoid it.
so black people have a natural SPF of 4. So we do not as whiteys. And the reason why we are white is because when we migrated, the Great Migration, we moved to northern or southern climates, or sorry, the northern and southern hemisphere, when we get less sun exposure, and we sacrifice darker skin pigmentation so that we can get more vitamin D. It's to maximize our vitamin D absorption because there isn't as much sun. So when you think about it, one, we're not supposed to be out in the open all the time baking our asses off, especially as whiteys. We're supposed to be, unfortunately, in places with lots of cloud cover or lots of shade. And so we could wear sunblock, sure, and be disciplined and reapply it, but a lot of that shit has chemicals. Or we could just not bake ourselves, wear long sleeve clothing, long pants, and only have like minimal sun exposure. You know, enough to kickstart our serotonin, enough for the vitamin D. But you know how like they say everything in moderation?
Yeah.
We need water to survive, but if you drink too much of it, you drown, for instance. So it's like we just got to pace ourselves and not bake ourselves.
Yeah,
Anyway,
there's
what I'm getting,
the skincare tip I've heard recently though that people is like a trend is people just putting on sunscreen every day. Like they mix like sunscreen into their moisturizer, their daily moisturizer, and they just put sunscreen on at the beginning of every day. And they people say like if you want to protect the quality of your skin on your face, that's like the current trend is just sunscreen, like a little bit of sunscreen every day, even if you don't plan to go outside, just putting it on. Uh, so that's what people are doing these days. But I don't know
I
how
was
that's gonna
doing
be
it.
now. But
I was
yeah.
doing it too, dude. I got a tinted sunblock and,
Mhm.
you know, minerals. What was it? Titanium something. And it's pretty expensive shit. And that's putting it on my face every day. You know what? I realized it's probably the fucking cause of my red nose because I was putting it on with a lot of discipline yesterday or day before yesterday. Days kind of just fly by now. And my nose was inflamed and pure red, even though I'm using this stuff like religiously. And I barely had any sun exposure. So I was actually having an allergic response to whatever's in that shit. Guess where that sunblock is right now? It's in the
The
fucking
garbage.
garbage. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I usually don't waste stuff, man. But like, yeah, we need to not have excessive sun exposure. We're gonna get skin damage because our body can only handle so much, right? But what's bugging me is that people are telling us, "Oh, we need to wash our face. We need to then use a moisturizer. We need to use shampoo and conditioner and sunscreen and all these fucking products." But you know what? We don't need any of it. I'm a firm believer we don't need any of it. Yeah, we need
Yeah.
soap, sure, to wash your hands and get germs off because we're surrounded by a bunch of filthy fucking mammals out there, other people who are pretty gross. And there's a lot of viruses going around. Sure, yeah, I get it. We got to have good hand washing discipline, especially if we're putting our faces to our hands to our faces. But I mean, we don't need soap. We can wash off a lot of the dirt and filth of daily activity just by having a nice shower, or if we had a fresh river, that would work too. But it's like soap. It's a commercial construct. Like the fact that we need soap and moisturizer, soap strips all your sebum and it dries your skin out, and then your body reacts as it should by producing more sebum. But before it does that, you're like, oh, well, I need moisturizer. So then you use the moisturizer to counter the dryness, and then now you're greasy again because you got the extra sebum production and the moisturizer. So now you need soap, and you get stuck in this fucking cycle. And it wouldn't be that terrible if they didn't add endocrine disruptors to the soap. Fragrance, for instance. What the fuck is in fragrance? Hundreds to thousands of chemicals because it's proprietary. They have to hide their shit. And it's just like everywhere I look, the greed is hurting people. We don't need to consume these products, and yet we're told we need to make someone money.
Yeah, the other piece that I heard about skincare today was people saying don't overuse products. Like that's the new trend is don't overuse products and damage your skin barrier. That's what they say is like we have like a skin barrier, and if you overuse all these crazy products, then you'll damage your skin barrier just like you could damage your hair by like overusing products or something. Uh, but I get the impression that some of this, the craziness of the products are driven by like the first thing is that everybody has like a different skin type. Like some people are dry skin or greasy skin, or like there's like mixed skin type. I think I have a mixed skin type, like a dry forehead and a greasy like nose or something like that. But then the interesting thing that I find is like for all like women, a lot of them like wearing makeup, and that means that every day they have like a product on their face that can't be flawlessly letting their pores breathe. But then they like every night you wash the makeup off, and like if I was like just for us, if we're wearing sunscreen every day, that's maybe going to clog our pores a little bit and cause some redness. But like as men, we don't apply any sort of makeup to our face to hide the redness. But I sort of get the impression that some women might be caught in a cycle where like they're putting this makeup on every day, which causes their face to redden. So then they have to apply like a base layer of makeup to hide the redness because of uh, society's like standards, I guess, or like social pressure. And then they need a whole like face care routine to wash the makeup off and scrub it out and like do a mask at night to heal the face, and like it's just all these added steps just to fix the problems that so many of the steps add. And but hopefully there's a little bit of a trend to like people using less stuff and just being as they are and not having to do all these routines to cosmetically improve themselves.
Yeah, man. So it's like I like the idea of people not putting on makeup or doing shit
Mhm.
for other people, make other people happy to appease other people. People just being comfortable in their own skin and all that stuff. But you know, there's um there's a there, there's sort of like a limit to it, I gotta say. Like when people become super obese because of the food choices that they make, they actually a lot of them don't even know better. A lot of them don't even know how to read a label, right? There needs to be some sort of intervention to say before they get too bad, like, hey, I'm glad you're comfortable in your skin, but this is going to lead to diabetes, like the way you're eating, your health, whatever is going to lead to diabetes disease, and it's going to shorten your lifespan significantly. So I think it's important that like we don't bully people, but we check in and being like, hey, what's going on? Like, do you know how to read a label? Like, I don't know how to like talk to somebody to be like, hey, are you okay? Like, are you eating well? Are you aware that, this excessive weight's going to lead to a whole bunch of issues down the road? It's like, how do you have that conversation with somebody? Because like, it's not that
Mhm.
you're intolerant or you don't accept them for who they are, but it's they're the fact that they're naive or they're ignorant to what's happening to the shit that they're eating. It's going to kill them over time.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Hopefully
on
they
one
do
hand,
have easy alternatives. If there are no alternatives, then people are kind of stuck, even if they can read the label.
it's super hard to be healthy. It really is. The environment, the way things are set up, the way civilization makes things easy and comfortable for us, the food that we have access to. We can't grow our own food, most of us, unless we own land, and most of us don't have the money to afford the land required or to have the knowledge to do this. So then we're dependent on the supermarkets and what's provided to us, and we can pay more for organic, but organic even has pesticides. And it's confusing because you like look at like what a free range chicken is, what an organic chicken is. And there was one more, and they're all still in a chicken coop, and they never see the light of day. The only chickens that are actually sort of healthy are antibiotic, pastured raised chickens. That's pretty specific. They advertise free range and organic as like healthy, but they're really not. And so it's like we're out there and we're trying to make better food choices, and we're still getting fucked and getting progressively sicker because of this. Because like these animals are fed antibiotics. And you know what I want to share, man? Like I got my second GI test back, and I found out that I have antibiotic resistance to one of the four main ones to treat H. pylori.
What does that
Last
do?
Oc- last well, I mean, it's gonna save my life if I ever have a H. pylori outbreak. That shit in your gut causes ulcers and stomach cancer. Very, very dangerous. But I have antibiotic resistance now because maybe I'm having meat at restaurants that have antibiotics or from the Thai restaurant. I don't know. I don't know where it came from.
Hmm.
But October 2024, when I did the test, didn't have any of that shit. So I don't know if it's because I'm in Toronto and eating out more. I've been eating out a lot. So, I mean, that's pretty scary. In fact, I have antibiotic resistance now. So the standard treatment for bacterial infection will not work for me.
Right.
Normally, when they prescribe antibiotics to deal with like a gut issue, like say a pylori, H. pylori, they'll give you like two different types of antibiotics because if you just do one, it can make them more tolerant to it. So you got to kind of like shock it, blitzkrieg its
Mm.
ass, and now like the main frontline treatment is ineffective. So
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
so what I'm trying to get at is it's like I want people to not be insecure and to be comfortable in their own skin. But then there's a point where it's like, I see some of these individuals that are, they're just unhealthy. And how do we reel that in? How do we have that conversation with them? Because I don't want them to go complete opposite direction now where they're, throwing makeup on their face and they're like doing all these diet fads or whatever and, trying to shred the weight and they're never happy with themselves. Because I've walked that path and it's terrible. But it's like, it's like, why do women feel like they have to wear makeup and be presentable in society or when they go out into the public all the time? When it's terrible for their skin and they get stuck in this cycle, all for the benefit of the companies that are selling that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe there an effect like people talk about raising prices, inflation, all the tariffs and stuff. Maybe makeup just becomes more expensive, and then people are just forced to do with less of it,
Doesn't work.
and like that would change
Cigarettes.
like consumer behavior.
Yeah, man. No, cigarettes. They've skyrocketed in price, and I see
Mm.
like shit tons of people smoking still. It doesn't matter what the cost is. If you're addicted to it and your body needs it, you're gonna buy it regardless of cost. And with makeup, if you feel insecure enough or the societal pressures are so strong that you feel you need to buy, you're gonna pay whatever it costs.
Hmm.
So yeah, I know like decentivizing people with price doesn't work. I don't think it works, man.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that maybe not so effective. I guess I've
And makeup,
seen like
yeah.
sometimes celebrities and stuff. Like celebrities will kind of like there does seem to be a little bit of a social movement for like celebrities showing themselves without makeup and stuff to make a statement, and that's kind of cool. Whenever like some like popular people push the boundary a little bit to adjust what the expectations are, so that people are not like afraid of not wearing makeup. It's more of like a socially acceptable sometimes like to be out and around and be seen not in your best light. I feel like that's a good mindset for society to try to adjust itself toward.
Hmm. Well, the thing with makeup is it can, if you know how to wear it properly, it can make a dude look like a fucking woman. It can make people look very beautiful. And we know through, psychology studies that beautiful people go further. Fact. It's not an opinion. They
Mm.
just do. And yeah, maybe that's why the celebrities do that. But it's a little bit ridiculous that them not wearing makeup is a statement.
Yeah, I guess it's because I could see how, if you never see a celebrity without makeup, it does, and you're seeing them every day and you're like a vulnerable teen or something, you have this mindset that they like you'd come to believe they just look like that, and then you'd see yourself without makeup and you'd think, why don't I look like that? And so then if you see the photo of the celebrity without the makeup and they look more normal, then it sets your expectations to be like, oh, they are just a normal person and they're wearing makeup intentionally. And then you find like you can sort of see behind the scenes like that the flawlessness of their life is a produced thing, and that helps you adjust your own expectations of how you should look. So I think that could be like that. I think that is a good idea to show people behind the scenes, or in so to speak.
Now that I think about it, just the fact that we have celebrities, it's kind of weird.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Why do we idolize people just because they're good at
yeah.
acting or good at singing? Like, why do we idolize them like that? Why do we
Mm.
fucking worship them,
It's
elevate
getting
them
weird
to?
these days with like influencers being the new celebrities. That is getting interesting because like everyday normal people doing normal things can become popular enough where they become known to cross the boundary of fame, and they are just like people that are making a video a day of whatever they're doing. And that's interesting that there's no like celebrities are just whoever's at their computer doing whatever, and if enough people are into it and they're streaming on Twitch, then their name gets out there and they become like a brand. And that's kind of interesting to see because you can see people like on both sides of that line. Like the line is so narrow from just doing something with friends on the internet to crossing a line and being like influential.
Yeah, I don't get it, man. Like, why someone doing mundane shit can be a celebrity, but then you got like scientists that are, working to cure various diseases and professors who are pushing, the edge of what it is that we know and increasing our knowledge as a species. And yeah, like they're not celebrities. Like fucking, I'm sure most of them aren't even known.
Mm. Yeah,
It's
only the science communicators get like that job is where, they communicate the science to the public. They become like the face of the science and their job is to be like a personality. then they get popular.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, basically his whole Cosmos series is,
Yeah.
well, it's Carl Sagan's. He just took it. He kind of piggybacked off of Carl Sagan, and like I never heard of Carl Sagan until Neil deGrasse Tyson, and then I stumbled upon Carl's book, Contact, which I very much enjoyed. But Carl Sagan he should be a celebrity.
I think, yeah, he was pretty close. I think he was one of the bigger, like, as much as you can be a celebrity in the science community. I think he was actually pretty big. And I don't know, I think a lot of kids watched his show. And so he was like the guy that every kid that likes science today has some connection to Carl Sagan, because he was so, like, he had the science show in America at the time or something.
Hmm. You know, I see a lot more people these days with like acne and hair loss and rosacea,
Hmm.
excessive weight, on the chest, on the stomach, on the sides. Like I'm starting to notice these things as I learn more about it, especially because, at points I've had weight gain in those different areas, and I got rosacea and acne and hair loss and all that stuff. And so I'm a bit more aware of it because I'm learning about it, trying to understand how to reverse it, stop it, hopefully, or at least slow it down. And like I'm noticing a lot of people, a lot of people with these diseases. Hair loss is technically a disease. What's happening in the scalp with the calcification and fibrosis, it's a disease. It's your body changing and deforming and scarring. And rosacea is also a disease, and acne is also a disease of the skin. I wouldn't really call, the weight gain a disease, but the effects that it can have over time, it's an indicator of poor health. Anyway, I'm noticing more and more people at younger and younger ages. I'm seeing kids who are excessively overweight.
Oh,
Children,
right. Yeah, that's, yeah,
more,
like child obesity, I think is a thing, is a pretty, I don't know what state we're at right now. I haven't seen a lot of kids in the last like 8 years. I've occasionally seen like a group of like grade fives walking like with like teacher monitors on some field trip, but I have very rarely seen large groups of children at all, actually,
interesting.
anymore.
Well, so I see lots of kids, and where I'm at, the neighborhood is well off. Okay, it's like High Park area. It's nice. Lots of kids. They look healthy, and that's because they got money. But when I go to a lower income area, like where the gym is, the kids there are all fat, most of them. And when you think about it, what child abuse is feeding them fucking cereal. That's child abuse. When you look at the ingredients on the cereal boxes these days, very different than when I was a kid. Still terrible when I was a kid, but now it's like you're feeding them fucking sugar. And like I got obese as a child because of white bread, peanut butter, and jelly sandwiches that my grandmother used to basically force feed me for cookies. If I wanted my cookies, I had to eat this shit. And I was a pretty active kid. And the ingredient list wasn't as terrible back then. But like I get why I got overweight. And like kids nowadays, though, it's like they don't stand a chance because cereals are still advertised as a healthy breakfast, and parents have no idea. That's child abuse, man. Feeding them fucking pure sugar like that.
I wonder what kids like. I remember before, like up until grade 8, we had like the outdoor recesses, and the only thing to do was run around or do some kind of sport. I wonder if kids like in grade 7, 8, or like grade 5, 6, do they just have smartphones at recess? And that would mean that they're not like bored, so therefore they run around and play tag and stuff. I feel like they would just be on their phones pretty
I
clearly,
don't,
and like,
I don't
I
know.
don't know.
I hear
Yeah.
kids in grade school still going around screaming and having fun, so at least they have that.
Yeah.
But I don't know about the older kids, to be honest. I mean, a lot of them have phones, so I mean, their brains are being fucking worn down and polluted by their Instagram. Actually, I think they're using Snapchat. But the little example that I have is Naomi's nieces, right? Like they got the phone, they got the tech. They're brought up in a nice middle class home, and like they go to school and they come back again. And they spend most of their time in the house. One of them is on all the social media, and they
Mm.
socialize with themselves. So I mean, like two other siblings, total of like three kids around the same age is not too bad. But like they're heavily into the social media. So whether I don't know if they do that at school, if it's not taken away from them, I'm sure they do. But it's very different than when we were in school, grade school.
Yeah. Hopefully, I think in the classroom, phones are starting to get banned or like really looked down on and controlled. Hopefully that continues. I think for the benefit of kids, they would not, most of them say they would like a phone ban, as far as I understand, because they find it just impossible to concentrate if other students have phones or they have phones. But
Hmm.
I would imagine at recess you'd get it back, or maybe it's like in your locker or something. So then you, if you're not like in the classroom under teacher instruction, then you'd kind of have that distraction always there.
Yeah, I don't know how it is. I have a couple of teachers I
Mm.
could probably ask or friends.
The crazy thing too that I've heard is like there's a bunch of like AI apps that can just make anybody naked on phones, and apparently like 1 in 5 or 1 in 10 kids knows like another kid that's just like making naked versions of all the other kids, and that's like an epidemic apparently at the moment, which is insane. Like that's totally insane to think about, that as a kid in like grade 6 grade 7 you're bombarded with like the ability to just like of like naked versions of your classmates. That seems crazy. That like how could a kid defend themselves against that? It's just like a crazy next level like weaponized bullying like arms race thing.
Yeah, well, take it a step further. It's kind of crazy that we all have to wear clothes. Well, I mean, like, why? Like,
But
we
at least with
are,
clothes it's like the individual could decide to wear, like if you decide to wear clothes no one can like take them off you. But this is like a no consent way to like take other people's clothes off, which is uh not in anyone's interest. I don't know.
yeah, in this day and age, it's not appropriate. But it's just like, where did that stem from? Why did we start clothing ourselves? It's like when I really think about like where we came from, why did we progress the way we did? Why is it that one day
Mhm.
we decided that clothes were required to cover ourselves?
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. That just yeah, like the things that it seems we invented about, yeah, like visibly protecting various parts of our body, and in the same way like being offended by different words and stuff. It's these weird, it's things that are not really attached to anything. They're just like visually seeing something or saying or hearing a certain word, we decide that these things do harm in the same way that physical like things can be physically harmed. That is an
Hmm.
odd, doesn't seem to be really for any purpose. It's like civil, like a civilized society, but it's almost like an even more civilized version of society would be above concern about these things. Like they would recognize that it's just words and we can choose to say them or not. And it's like a higher level of intellect would allow us to not care about it so much or something. But just like a middle, yeah, like a mid-tier civilization has these arbitrary rules to try to give like a pretend organization to things to reduce like the perception of chaos or something, when it's still pretty chaotic. It's just like hidden.
Hmm. Here's a random question. If you could change things, like drastically reduce the population without killing anybody. You don't have to kill anybody, but just our population is reduced to, let's say, 10 million across the planet. Guns are wiped out. No more missiles. No more bombs. All of it's destroyed, dissolved, repurposed, whatever, into useful things. No more money. It's gone. Would you live on a planet like that? Like, would you want something like that?
I think like if it was that, but there was like a very if there was like a really strong philosophy about the arts, and like if people were like kind of obsessed with like perfecting various art forms, like any sort of like music or visual art, or even like, you know, creating videos and movies and song and like all that stuff. If that was sort of like, if people were like really like they fueled, and also like maybe personal fitness and sort of like perfecting ourselves and our minds and stuff, that would be, yeah, that's what I would really want, is like all our energy is sort of channeled towards the exploration of our own like minds and beings, and being exposed to different like viewpoints and ideas. And that would almost be like a content war in itself in some way, where people are like just sort of people are almost the analogy of like a rap battle or like diss tracks, where it's like some like people are taking, if they're taking shots at each other or ideas, it's through art, and the art's commenting on other art, and people are like joking around, and like it would just be uh yeah, in summary, it would be like as if like the whole human race was one like content creating organism that was like in conversation with itself. That's something that does like appeal to me. And I feel like all the other stuff is kind of like distractions, but not. I would accept it, like, because all that other stuff, like the fighting of the wars and everything, is part of the human experience, and then we
Why?
capture that with art or something like that.
Why
Like,
does
why
it?
is it?
Yeah, like I get that. Like, so I heard this before. Like 10%
Mm,
of all conflict is just a resource grab, and the other 90% is
mm,
revenge, a cycle of revenge and a cycle of violence. And why was there the initial resource grab? Well, I think it was just people taking advantage of other people, entrepreneurs. I think it's our programming, our mental programming. We are very much, you have the occasional anomaly like the sociopath and people who don't conform to like normal programming. But there is like the way we are, I think, is just, while we're not inherently evil, we're flawed. And I think it's leading to a lot of issues. I mean, the fact that we still have war just hurts my head. I don't get it.
mm.
But it's, if you could reduce the population, you know, still have energy, still people can still have their roles and stuff and contribute, because we all are gonna, most people want community. Most people want to contribute and fit in. Let's
Yeah.
say if, with my question there, let's say if you could update our program where there is no more greed and we actually like work together and we grow our own stuff and, you know, we take care of each other. The good qualities of humanity without the bad. I mean, that's that's where I would want to be.
Yeah,
I
it
wish we
would be
were
fun
like
to
that.
make some kind of like, that would be a fun movie to watch. Just like an hour and a half movie that was as if it was a documentary, like almost like a realistic documentary, uh, that was fictional, but of this, like of a future world where they just kind of have like, it would just kind of drill into all the aspects of society and just show how it's sort of structured and it works and everybody's happy and contributing.
We
And that
used
would
to
be kind
be
of
this
like
way.
yeah,
It used to be this way.
yeah,
And it's
mm,
because of, what was it, colonialism, the imperialists going around and killing everybody in violence. Like, they've tainted everything. Violence has tainted everything. The greed of the few who've gone unchecked has led to
mm,
the way people are. And what's interesting, it's like, I'm thinking of like the kings and the queens of old, right? Like, they just grabbed power.
right,
They saw an opportunity. They basically were like, hey, we'll provide physical security to all your farmers. They created villages and then kingdoms, and then they expanded and they created armies and they used religion, and I can go off, but colonialism, is it colonialism or is it, I'm thinking of imperialism. Colonialism is like the expansion, but that wasn't that
right,
good either. That also oppressed
yeah,
and hurt people. But the imperialism that ended up happening, I mean, it killed a lot of people, and it messed a lot of people up. And all of that was driven by a few greedy motherfuckers who put themselves at the top. And all the damage that's been done to people and
mm,
caused by a few people. And I think about that and I'm like, oh shit, is it going to happen again? Is it
mm,
is it happening right now? Has it been happening for a while? I mean, you think of Putin in Russia, Trump in the States, any sort of dictator that's out there
mm,
running the show without any sort of checks and balances from the people, right? Because if the people can't
yeah,
throw them out because they have a monopoly on violence, then it's a few people that are running the show. We got under what, 200 countries on the planet?
mhm, yeah.
And if half of them were
Yeah, that's something like that.
dictatorships, 100 people, yeah.
Yeah, at least definitely the biggest countries are now like top, run by one person. And there's no way that one person could represent the diversity of all the different people under them. So it's almost like by definition, like there is no one perfect person that could represent everybody. They have their own biases, whatever they are, and they make things like in their own image, and they don't get told certain information that they don't have access to, and then it just leads to some group of people under them being like oppressed, and yeah, it doesn't seem like that's really like a sustainable thing
How do
moving
we
forward.
have
Yeah.
just one figurehead that runs it all? I know there's the Senate and all that stuff, but it's like, how do we just elect one person to represent all of our interests? Like, there needs to be a council.
Yeah. Yeah, things grow to a certain size and it just becomes a challenge for all the human brains that are involved to track all the variables. And then we just have these moments of like simplification where we just, because we're all exhausted, we let one person make decisions for simplicity and they kind of go nuts. And then we, we realize we need to fight to get, everybody needs to like fight and there's turbulence and disorganization to try to get back to a position where multiple voices are being heard and there's some like stability. But then often there's an interesting like the comparison if you look at like a democratic country, it's always in conflict with itself. And then you look at an authoritarian country and things are just kind of going however they're planned, or at least that's what they say. And so but it's hard because it's like the democracy really is where everyone have the more freedom to express themselves. But then sometimes it's like things are flip-flopping, but then sometimes you just have to say that's the natural state of things, is things are flip-flopping and in discourse, and there's like debates going on, and that's kind of fine because the alternative is one side just wins absolutely and the other side doesn't get heard and it looks less chaotic. But it's not going to work for everybody that has no voice underneath.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like this. I like the idea, though. Like, it's sort of a magical, unrealistic idea, but the idea that we could discover a very simple political philosophy, or like some kind of ideology, or almost like an atheist faith of some sort that would resonate on a basic level with everybody, like every human that has a human style brain. If you could develop some kind of very simple, easy to follow, easy to remember, like very compelling reasoning that's like only a few sentences, that would put like every mind that heard it on the same track in order to become whatever, like, and there's no actual way this would happen, but like become sort of enlightened in a sense, and it would give rise to the world you were talking about before, where like there's no, everybody just kind of skips guns and doesn't care about war and like cooperates. But it's fun to think that could you write down such a simple phrase that could be translated accurately or whatever, or like a system of symbols or something, that you sort of spread this as like a very small faith that people just internalize, and then as they build on top of it, they build in ways that work and scale properly to whatever level of people there are on the planet, or whatever hierarchies. And that's more of like a fictional thing, but it's a fun, like that. This is sort of like a fun, like narrative or artistic idea, almost. Like, it definitely would not work in practice, but it is like for me personally, it's kind of a fun thing to think about.
It sounds like I just need to create my own religion. Well, here's
Yeah.
here's the interesting thing is, like, what about the prophets that are out there that people tend to follow? You got like Buddhism and all the other stuff. Was it just somebody who woke up one day, like, who was Buddha? Was he a prince? And he just like realized, like, all of these things that I have are a burden to me. And I don't know if it was Buddha or someone else, but it's like they tried deprivation to see if they could find enlightenment through deprivation, thirst, starving, sexual deprivation, whatever. I don't think they were able to find it that way, but they found it through simplicity and through discipline and dedication to the group, and to dedication to bettering oneself. Like, something already exists that very much aligns with like the way I think and what I value. I guess I'm very much anti-capitalist.
Yeah, I listened to some like Marxist like people on podcasts that I listen to are self-described Marxists, and they also call themselves Luddites. And those are two terms, like Luddite and Marxist are, they're very much like worker power. They're anti-capitalist. They don't, like, they're kind of against the ruling class. And a lot of the stuff they say makes sense. And it's kind of, as like capitalism has been so pervasive, it's kind of unproven if could we replace capitalism or improve it by injecting these ideas of like more worker power and distributed, and less everything, less having things driven by neoliberalism, which is like the privatization of every service, like, private hospitals, private supply chain, private airlines and everything. Like, that's neoliberalism, where it's like, if you, like, everything that can be a business should be, but then the Marxist thing is more like, society providing, or at least the way I understand it, like society providing goods and services for itself, just for that purpose, not to make a profit, but in service of the people, and the people that use them and like them and want to maintain a nice like society for themselves. And that's not like the whole thing. I think it has its own like whole ideology. But I find that to be, that's a very interesting like political mindset and way to organize things for me. And then also, yeah, like what I understand about Buddhism and meditation, that also appeals to me. And it's fun to try to just like weave these things together, like almost like make the minimalist version of these things, where like get rid of all the access scripture and all the things and just reduce it down to some kind of basic, very simple paragraph that like you need like the smallest amount of stuff you need to under sort of grasp this concept or something like that.
Well, I'm striving for simplicity. Like as a minimalist, like I was building assets in a portfolio and stuff, and I heard the final piece to the puzzle, the final link that I needed to hear to confirm that I'm done doing what I'm doing. Somebody was talking about building generational wealth. He's like, this is how you do it. You get properties, you get HELOCs or refinance, and you continue to spread the equity in your home over time to buy other properties, rent them out, blah, 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 do your taxes. You acquire a bunch of properties, you get a life insurance term or policy that covers all of your liabilities so that in the event of your death, everything is paid off and it goes to your beneficiary, and then you die. And then everything goes to the next generation. And I'm just like, well, fuck that. What's the point of building all of this and being spread out and have all of that risk and all those liabilities and all that complexity just for someone to inherit it? They're not going to appreciate the work that went into it.
Yeah.
Fuck that. And I was like,
yeah,
you know,
it's
that's
like
it.
almost like a disservice. Yeah, like giving someone a bunch of money, the next generation, it's gonna like spoil them almost.
So I just put into Chad there, talk to me about Buddhism. And yeah, it was a prince, renounced his princely life in search of a solution to human suffering. He done years of deep meditation. He achieved nirvana, liberation under the Bodhi tree.
That would be. I want there to be like a really high production value documentary about this story. That's what I would want. Is like it just feels like that's what any movement needs is like a film that is just called like The Buddha and it's like start to finish it blows you away. It's got a great like musical score behind it. Like it wins like best picture awards and it just like without trying to convince anyone of anything, it just delivers you like a foundation and gets you excited about like it sort of markets a way of life that you can do by choice or whatever to the viewer, and then you leave the film sort of feeling like the world's beautiful or something like that. And it, like I don't really understand like whatever money these organizations have, if they're like charities, like they really need to hire the right film director and just produce something like that and just have everyone point to that one piece of media as like start there. And if you like what you see, here's like the book recommendations that fall out of it or something. But in the absence of that, it's like, I'm here, I want to get excited. And sometimes you can't find like I just want to pay someone to like go on a retreat and, tell me I'm meditating and let me sit in a hot tub and give me some nice nutritious food and let me hike on a mountain. And then like a week later, I feel like, okay, like I've been connected to something. But there isn't like a nice experience like that. It's sort of like no one's really ready to provide that or sell that to you or something, which it's not really about like selling or buying things, obviously, but I want like some platform that someone's like gotten ready that I can just sort of benefit from. It just feels like doing the work myself can be done. Like that is part of the journey, is like doing the work yourself. But I guess I also feel like, if it's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. But it's like, who am I to, like, that's why I got to make my own thing. 'Cause I don't want to like misrepresent anyone else's work. I just have to put my own ideas and then make these videos myself that I'm thinking of, and video games myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can create it then.
Yeah, that's what in the like I'm doing like weekly talk therapy with a therapist, as I have done many times before, but now I'm talking with them about the intentional development of a personal faith where because there's some level of thinking where like there's no greater purpose to the universe. We won't like you're not going to stumble upon one by thinking about it. So my idea is wrap up that core, like the undecidability of the like just accept that there's no purpose to the universe and wrap that up in some kind of faith that's very small and minimalist and just put that aside and then sort of focus on what I want to do. But whenever I get lost, I can rely back on this like little philosophy or faith that I've constructed that just tells me, there's no ultimate answer, but you get happiness from doing this thing. So like redirect your energies to doing the thing you want to do and just accept that like inside of this like area, there's no meaning inside there. Like once things are too like self-referential or point, like, it's just the carelessness of the universe or something. But I've been making like some videos that I'm proud of lately, like about different topics. One of them is just like a Blender tutorial on like 3D modeling, but that has put me on this line of, like if I can get some value out of a 3D modeling application, if I can teach that, maybe there's like a deeper meaning there, and I can teach more generally what does it mean to create in general, and how do I turn that into some kind of philosophy of creating things and some like principles that just let people unlock themselves and create what they want to create and not worry about it and not question it too much and just enjoy the things they create, because that's certainly what I want to spend time doing. So that's something I'm kind of excited about at the moment. And specifically I'm learning like music, like how to just make basic music, because that's the missing piece for me right now. Is like I know I have all these other skills, but I don't have any really musical skill. And so I have this program like FL Studio, and I'm just doing basic, like you can put in like a bass drum and cymbals and all the like things for the beat, and then you can make chord progressions and like drop in other sounds, because I find that I always like if I make a video I need music, a game I need music, and I want to have the skill myself to make some music instead of always getting music from somewhere else.
Nice, makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, we should work on that too. That would be cool to get closer, like just collect the terms and the names that we need, like like we've thrown them around, like minimalism, Buddhism, like meditation, mindfulness, all these little things that we seem to like. Just
I
kind
don't
of
need
continue to wrap them.
Yeah, man, like I don't need meditation. That's the
Mhm.
thing. It's like when you simplify your life and you get rid of the complexities of civilization and the liabilities and all that stuff, I don't need to meditate. I just need to be present and have gratitude for what it is that I have. And I find that by
Yeah.
having new experiences and well, I mean, first and foremost, having your health, like paramount importance, because then you're actually free from the shackles of your pain to be able to actually live. And when you can live and experience the world and the beauty that I mean, nature is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Why is nature beautiful? Why is it that when I was in BC and I'm looking at this cliff that was sort of overarching this picnic bench with this greenery, I'm like, that is the most fucking beautiful thing I have seen.
Yeah.
Why is nature inherently beautiful to us? Is it because we don't see it often, or is it just inherently beautiful? And why aren't we surrounded by that beauty at all times? I find
Yeah.
that
That's my question too. Yeah.
I find that I'm very grateful for it when I'm in
Yeah.
it. So it's like I don't really need to meditate. I don't need to clear my monkey brain, as they put it, because I have a path, and my path is clear, and it's to simplify, simplify, simplify. Reduce the anchors, the burdens, the things that hold me in place to let me be free, not to be attached to physical things, be more transient, become lighter, shed my excess weight, shed my diseases. to do that, I need to understand the body. So if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to study naturopath medicine, herbs, elixirs, become a shaman, a real life fucking shaman if I can. And, really get into that, like, and help people, because I see people sick. I look at their nails, I see the vertical and the horizontal grooves, mostly vertical. Horizontal is very bad. I see people like shedding, losing their hair, and I'm like, oh, that might be hypothyroidism. It's grossly misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed hypothyroidism. And it leads to so many issues. But like understanding our bodies and what the deficiencies result in, I can maybe help people shed the shackles of their suffering so that they can have gratitude for what's around them. But I find that people busy themselves and they, tried to fit into society because that's sort of like what everybody's been programmed to do. But all of it is just to make the people who are elevated to the top more wealthy, more rich, and to maintain the structure of the system as it is. When really what we should all be seeking is freedom and nature. So I find that, I don't need meditation. I just need to be free in nature to have gratitude for the life that I have. So once, and this is the issue with the state, there's like no free land. I guess there's crown land, but that's super far away from everything. And we don't have the knowledge or the education or the ability to like grow. And then if we did try to like make a homestead or whatever else, they would just fucking kick us off the crown land unless we own it. But it's like we're forced to conform. And so like I don't want a house. I really don't. I don't want to deal with it. But it's a way to kind of like grow your money and stay afloat in middle class and have money, which is like the main tool just to function in society. And it's unfortunate, but I really want to be free of it all. And I'm moving on that path of selling everything. And when I saw how complicated my taxes were having an American property, I was like, oh my God, I had to pay $4,000 Canadian for my tax return. And it was not correct. They didn't do it correctly. It was the most complicated, complex thing I've ever seen. And I was like, this is disgusting. Things don't need to be this complex. It's gross. It's fucking stupid. And I was just like, I'm done. There's too many moving parts. There's too many hands in the pot. I feel like I have hooks in me, Richard, bleeding me of money. I feel like I have collars around my neck to the lenders. I feel enslaved to my lenders because I have to pay them to have the asset. I'm doing bunny ears here that I have, that I live in. And every lender is a collar around the neck because they will destroy your credit rating. They will get their money one way or another because that's how the system is. Because the wealthy lend money to the middle class and poor so that they can make more money. We're all born into modern day slavery. It seems the states have created slaves of us all. And we don't need any of it, man. We don't need any of it. Once I sell everything, I'm gonna like eat organic and healthy. I'm gonna determine like truly what my cost of living is. The words.
That'll be interesting. See what
cost
what it would
of living. Isn't that silly?
be.
You have to pay money to live, to survive. And the only way to make money is to contribute to the economy for someone to give you money, whether it be the government or a corporation or someone else. There's a cost to be alive, Richard. I think it's silly. I think it's fucking silly. Anyway, I better get going before I get in trouble because it's some overtime and
check out Slab City, California. I posted a Wikipedia article there.
Yeah,
That's like an unincorporated city. Yeah.
Isn't that in a desert?
Yeah, just like I guess it's for people who want to live outside mainstream society. That's what it says.
Yeah, but we don't belong in a desert. That's already against our
Oh, yeah.
evolution.
Yeah, I guess it's basically like whatever land, as we said before, there's like no land left. So that's the stuff that's available.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah,
my
we'll see.
sites. Yeah, man. We'll talk more later. Bye bye.
Yeah, bye.